Good morning. My name is Dr. Tim Tharp. I'm the Deputy State Superintendent for the state of Montana. I work for the Montana Office of Public Instruction. I want to welcome everybody to this sectional. During her 20-year career in public education, Monika Bell spent 16 years serving students in Title I schools. She served as a classroom teacher in grades 5 through 8, a Title I school liaison, a math coach, and a mathematics instructional specialist for the district office. Monika has a bachelor's degree from the University of Florida, a Master of Science from Florida Atlantic University, and is a national board certified teacher. As an implementation coordinator for ExploreLearning, she conducts trainings and works as a liaison between ExploreLearning and district stakeholders, aligning science and math curriculum for workshop, classroom, and online use. With a core belief that all students can learn, she is committed to optimizing the learning experience for students. Visiting us from Florida, Monika Bell.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Thorpe, for that warm welcome. I'd like to welcome you all to Closing the Achievement Gap in Mathematics for Title I students. You had a lot of choices this afternoon, and I'm really glad that you chose to be here in this session. So I want to start off by telling you a little bit about ExploreLearning, who we are and what we create. We have math and science solutions for students in grades 3 through 12, and we have 2 award-winning products. One of them is Math and Science Gizmos, which are our online simulations designed to promote inquiry and deeper conceptual understanding. The other one is Reflex Math, which is our math fact fluency solution. And this is what I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about today. I think it's really important to start off by beginning with the end in mind. We all know that we want all of our students to have greater opportunity through higher education. And in order to get that higher education, we look at their SAT scores. So this is a graph of SAT math scores according to family income. And you'll notice that students whose family income was lower scored lower than the national average on these SATs. In fact, there's a large achievement gap based on income that exists. And we are committed to closing that achievement gap. Early intervention in math is just as critical as it is in reading. So let's go a little bit further back. Let's go to elementary level. Here we have the National Assessment of Education Progress, which revealed this data on 4th grade math scores. Look at the population on the right. Approximately 72% of these students were at or above basic, compared to 92% of those students who were not eligible for free or reduced lunch. This is an achievement gap of approximately 20%. I don't know about you, but I believe that your parents' income should not determine your academic outcome. So how do we bridge this gap? How do we close this? ExploreLearning has created a solution that does just that, and it works for all students. I'm going to tell you today a little bit more about Reflex Math. So it's a game-based system. It's adaptive. It's for students at all ability levels. It's individualized instruction for students. So while every student may be playing the same game, they're not necessarily looking at the exact same set of math facts within the game, because those facts are generated specifically for each child. There's intuitive and powerful reporting for educators, so teachers have those documents for RTI meetings and parent conferences. It's game-based, therefore it's really engaging and the students love it, so they're coming back for more. And it's 100% online, which means that students can access it anywhere that they have an internet connection. So Monika, you've told me about Reflex. You said you're talking about closing the achievement gap. Does it work? So I want to share with you a Title I case study that we did. We implemented for 20,000 students. And in this study, we looked at 233 Title I eligible schools during the 2016-2017 school year. The following measures were examined. Reflex math fact fluency based on students' average starting and ending math fluency in Reflex, as well as the percentage of students from low-income families as determined by the school demographic data provided in the market data retrieval. So let's take a look at this graph. In this graph, we're comparing the students' overall average fluency, which is along the y-axis, that vertical axis, to the percentage of students on free or reduced lunch. So that's along that x-axis. And you'll notice that each dot on the chart represents a school with at least 100 students using Reflex for the recommended amount of time. The size of the dot represents the number of students at the school who use Reflex. So when you see those larger dots, that means that more students use Reflex at that particular school. Here we see the chart for the average starting fluency on day one of Reflex, which across all schools was about 23%. So let's think about the statistics we looked at earlier. Based on those statistics, after the students were using Reflex, we would expect that those students that are, those schools where there are students, 100% of the students are on free and reduced lunch, we'd expect them not to move according to the data and the statistics that we just looked at. But that's not the case. In fact, the opposite is true. Take a look at this. This is the same set of schools after 60 days using Reflex Math. 60 days. And you can see no matter what percentage of students on free or reduced lunch, whether it's 40% or 100%, the students improve their math fact fluency. In fact, the average final fluency for all schools was 96%. Now, I've been up for a long time today, and I actually got up at 4 a.m. because there were some people outside my window. Apparently there's something going on in the city. And I thought to myself, wow, I called my mom. I said, Ma, you know, I'm doing a speech at 1, and guess what? They're doing a parade. She said, baby, that's not for you. That's not for you. But I've been up for a while this morning, and it occurred to me, we had a whole city so excited about a football team. How nice would it be for us to get students that excited and that invigorated about math? How many of you think that would be a great thing? Let's give math a hand. So we really are very, very proud of these results. And I have actually a few more studies to share with you. And I know, you know, in this data-driven society, it's like, oh, more data. But this data is really critical, and it's really, really crucial in showing what the product actually does. So I'm going to take a little bit of a detour and just talk some about math fact fluency so you can get an idea of why we need this fact fluency, and also so that you can see how Reflex works. So we're looking specifically at math fact fluency, and that's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division facts. When we talk about math fact fluency, this is what we're talking about, that automaticity. This is when students are able to recall those basic facts, and it frees their working memory so that they can solve more difficult problems. How many of you remember learning your math facts when you were in school? Now, I remember learning mine, and I had a teacher named Ms. Herring, and she would let you know on a daily basis, you need to know these facts because you're not going to always have a calculator. You're not going to always have a calculator. I got a big one, right? And so we know that students have access to the information, and they got those cell phones, and they can get those facts. But how nice would it be for them to be able to recall them automatically the same way they can recall their name. And that's what we want. It's really important also because math fact fluency is also a significant indicator and a predictor of student performance. So when students are fluent in their math facts, they're better at math concept problems, better at word problems, data interpretation problems. In fact, when students are taking test assessments such as the SAT, even where there are calculators that are allowed, if they're fluent with their math facts, their performance is better. So let's just look at this problem of adding fractions. And I want you to think about how many math facts you probably need for this particular problem. And I picked adding fractions because I showed you guys some test scores from 4th grade, and I think around 4th grade is when they start getting into those fractions. And when I was in the classroom teaching, if I said the word fractions, it was like I said a bad word. So this one problem has 5 procedural steps, but if we take each one of those procedural steps and break them down, it's 14 math facts that they need to know automatically in order to solve this problem. So if they're stuck on any one of these math facts, if they're stuck on 6 times 3, it takes a longer time and they may not even get to the actual procedure. As a math teacher, I want my students to be fluent and automatic with their facts so that they're not bogged down with that fluency piece. We know that we have traditional resources, and these traditional resources include worksheets and flashcards and so forth, but none of these are adaptive and individualized the way that Reflex is. So I'm going to show you just a little bit about how a Reflex session works. Like I said earlier, it's game-based and it's 100% online. So what happens typically is that the students are going to go into Reflex for about 15 to 20 minutes. And that's a rough estimate because Reflex is not time-based. Unlike a lot of products, Reflex is not time-based. It's based on that student answering enough facts correctly over that period of a day. So the first component of a typical Reflex session is the fluency check. And this is where the students are assessed on their starting fluency. And this is where Reflex gets that data that it needs to differentiate that instruction. So every single student is going to be practicing a different set of math facts. Based on the data that is collected in the fluency check, the student begins working on Reflex-specific math facts. So it's designed to progressively develop students' ability to recall these facts from memory, and the student moves through 3 coaching stages that gradually add increasing complexity. One of the things that I really like about Reflex, and you'll see that in that center screen, the center of the screen, is that the facts are learned through fact families. So a student is not just learning 6 plus 7 equals 13, but they're also learning the other 3 facts in that family, which is really, really crucial and critical when they get to that middle grades math and when they're looking at inverse operations. So they're learning them all at the same time. So once that coaching piece is complete, then they go into the fluency development games. And this is what the students really enjoy. This is where they're going to spend most of their time. And the facts that they practice in that coaching session are going to be paired up with a larger set of facts, and they're all at different levels of fluency. And unlike typical math fact games that require students to engage in increasingly complex and fast-paced decision-making. So instead of just rotely remembering, they're also having to dodge different animals and so forth and so on. And so that's mimicking what's going to happen in a problem-solving situation, because they're not just recalling those facts, but they're doing other things at the same time, simultaneously. So one of the other great components of Reflex is that students are not only rewarded for their effort, but they're also rewarded for their success. And that's key to really promoting a growth mindset. As they go through the sessions, they get tokens, and they can utilize these tokens to create a progress tree. That progress tree that they can add animals and twinkle lights. So the more tokens they earn, the more they can add to their progress tree and their avatars. Reflex also has a great component of teacher fluency and usage reports. So these are really good for RTI meetings, for parent conferences, to allow the teacher to go through and see exactly where that student is. And here's a few more pieces of proof that Reflex actually works. So I'm going to take you through a demographic data study. We had over 5,500 students in grades 2 through 5, and they were at 683 schools using Reflex during the 2016-2017 school year. The following measures were examined: their fact fluency, as well as their economic status. So here you're going to see a comparison of students that were eligible for free or reduced lunch, which is on the right side, and then those students ineligible for free or reduced lunch on the left side. And the darkest red slice is going to represent that starting fluency that is between 0 and 9%. So what we've done is an overlay here, and you'll see that that starting fluency is around the perimeter. And after 40 days of using Reflex, the average fluency for those students eligible for free or reduced price lunch was 80% compared to 86% for those who are not eligible. Here, when we're looking at that darkest green circle, it's representing students with an average fluency of between 90 and 100%. So now take a look at the ending fluency. We have a median ending fluency, students ineligible for free and reduced lunch at 95%, and those eligible, 93%. So think about it. Not only do you note that there's a comparable ending fluency, but it was also done within a comparable amount of time. Got another case study. This time we had 10 classes of 2 Houston, Texas area elementary schools using Reflex during the 2016-2017 school year. And the following measures were examined: their fluency with their math facts, as well as the ability to determine the missing value in an open sentence. So we analyzed this data. 2 of the classes were second grade classes, 6 were third grade, and 2 were fourth grade. Half of the participating classes used Reflex, and then the other half used a different fluency method, such as flashcards or worksheets. So when we look at the fact fluency of all of the students, and these students were giving a pre-test in late September and a post-test in May. The students were scored based on their speed as well as their accuracy. So we took the correct number of digits per minute and we subtracted out the number of incorrect digits per minute. On the fact fluency, the average student had a score of 10 on the pre-test given in September. By the end of the school year, those who did not use Reflex improved to an average score of 18, but those who used Reflex improved to 33. This same set of students, when we looked at their average fact fluency gain, you can see a tremendous gain difference with those that use Reflex versus those who did not use Reflex. And when we look at finding the missing term, twice as much improvement, twice as much from those who use Reflex versus those who did not. Here's a closer look at one of the schools. This is a third grade classroom. in which all of the students were similar demographically, and a significant number of the students were on free or reduced lunch. So this was a clear opportunity to really examine the effects of Reflex. Students in those Reflex classrooms had similar pretest scores to those in classrooms using traditional methods, but you can see that those classes used Reflex were significantly ahead by the end of that school year. So our results that you've seen so far are not really limited to a single classroom, a single school, single grade level, or even a single year. In our last case study, we analyzed the data from over 500 students in grades 2 through 5 using Reflex across 6 schools in Charlottesville, Virginia. 5 of the 6 schools in Charlottesville are Title I school-wide, with an average of 65% of students on free or reduced lunch. We looked at their gains on the Northwest Evaluation Association test by percentile rank. We found that students who use Reflex regularly had significantly higher growth on that norm referenced math test than their fellow students with little or no Reflex. So the blue bars are indicating those students who use Reflex but did not meet the recommended Reflex usage. And while they show gains, look at the students with the higher Reflex usage indicated by the green bars. Notice the larger percentile rank of their gains. And I want to take a moment to talk about that recommended usage, because as the student logs in, each time they log into the system, there's a green light in the upper right corner that illuminates to let the student know that they've answered enough facts correctly for that session. So we always tell the students, get to that green light. And so if they get to that green light, then they finish for that session. So we recommend that students get to the green light at least 3 days per week or more. So when we're talking about those with good usage or high usage, those are meeting or exceeding that recommended usage. So let's look at the students after 2 years of taking the MAP test. Again, those in the green are representing students that had higher than the recommended usage. Those in the blue, not as good. Even the ones in the blue are making the gains, not as much as the ones that were using Reflex according to our recommendations. So when we look at the 3-year results, we found that the students in the lowest quartile kept improving. In 2015, those students improved or maintained gains on their 2014 gains. And then we also found that math fact fluency can have a lasting positive effect on struggling students. You've heard from me, and I've talked about what Reflex can do, but I always think it's great to hear from the students. So we have some students and teachers in Charlottesville, Virginia, that are going to actually tell you a little bit more about Reflex.
One of the things that I like about Reflex is that the kids love it. That's the first thing. They get excited about it, and I like to see them excited about math.
It's intriguing to me instructionally, but I also certainly see why it's engaging to students. This school is a Title I school, about 260 students. Free reduced lunch is about 80%.
They come in with this knowledge that I'm not good at math. You know, I can't do it. And one of the things that Reflex has done for them is to show them that yes, you can.
It's not too hard, but it's not too easy. It's like just the right level.
Fluency is a part of reading. Fluency is also a part of math. Fluency of your facts.
Fluency allows a student to get to the next level in all those other pieces like concept attainment and application.
One of the things that I've talked to them about is that when you have fluency, I don't have to spend as much time trying to get you to understand the concept we're working on.
We definitely have seen the benefits of students just not being afraid to dive into a more complex problem.
I'm spending time on the concept and not the fluency piece.
It's like kind of hard, but it's fun as well. It's like together hard and fun.
When you have something that's actually useful for the teacher as well as the student and fun for the student, you're going to have a lot more success.
I like that. She said it's kind of fun, but it's kind of hard, but it's not too hard, but I think it's just right. And Reflex is just right for helping your students to achieve math fact fluency. I want to thank you for coming out to our presentation. And prior to closing, I want to direct you to Tom, right there, Kyle and Norma, and they have some cards that we'd like for you to fill out to get some. Yes. So there's a couple of things happening right now that are really, really exciting about Reflex. One of them is that we have a grant window that's open right now. And so if you are interested in getting Reflex for free, because I know my favorite price is free, or at least $1. I love the dollar store. So if you are interested in getting Reflex for yourself, for your school, for as a teacher, you can fill out our grant application. We actually have that grant window, and it ends on, we can. Six easy questions. How did you hear about it? National Title I Conference. I'm giving you the answers. 6 very easy questions. Yeah, if you know someone who's interested, who may be interested in something like this, please email them the link as well. We are in booth number 516. If you'd like to actually try Reflex out or have us run a demo for you, we'll be here all day today and all day tomorrow. If you have any specific questions, we can answer those as well. And then we have some goodies for you as well. If there are not any questions, thank you very much for attending Closing the Achievement Gap in Mathematics.